Morning, Raptor Freak Alexey Ots here. Major technical difficulties this morning. I was trying to use Streamlabs to show the display of my chart on Excel of my rankings for the greatest Raptor of all time rankings ratings, and it's absolutely like all messed up. Like Streamlabs is not connecting to YouTube. I did the whole spiel. I was hoping it was recording it, and then I could just post it even though you guys couldn't watch it live, and just have it up there right now, but it's not even working for that. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just do it, talk about it, just say it instead of like trying to do it with the setup where y'all can see the spreadsheet also, because that's what screwed everything up is I'm trying to use Streamlabs and it messed it all up and it just didn't work out. So we're just going to go forward this way. I'm glad to see you guys found this new stream room. The other one got all messed up, and I'm not going to be able to use Streamlabs. I don't think that I have the aptitude to use it. And it, for some reason, every single time I try to use it, there's always some sort of problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about my greatest Raptor of all time rating system. If you guys have any questions as I go, just go ahead and fire at me, and I'll answer them as best as I can. Now, this system is based on a 6-point categories, 6 categories to get a point. And each category is different. So now some of them are, of course, the ones that you would think would be on a normal greatest Raptor of all time ranking system. The first category is called value. And to me, that's kind of like their talent, their skill. Like, for example, on this rating system that I have, Kawhi Leonard is considered a 1.5 at value. Now, he gets an extra half point because he was a superstar and he carried the team in a lot of ways in his 1 year at playing for the Raptors. And meanwhile, somebody like Kyle, DeMar, Fred, Pascal, those guys all get just a solid 1 point. Whereas like guys like Vince, Kawhi, and Chris Bosh actually get 1.5 in this category. And then guys that are kind of bench guys who weren't totally relied on to take over and carry the games and stuff like that, they get like a half point in this situation. So it's like Kawhi would get a 1.5 in this category. Fred would get a 1, and Norman would get a half point. Is kind of basically the delineation here and stuff like that. Yeah, things are okay. It's just technical difficulties this morning. Really annoying because honestly, I did the whole spiel for half an hour. I did it from 9:30 to 10. It was badass. I thought it went really well, but now nothing's connected or posted. So I'm just like, all right, I'll just do it over again and do it the way that works. That I know works is me just coming in here and doing a live stream like this. Now, that's the first category, value. Like, how important are they? Are they a superstar? Are they a star? Or are they a role player? That kind of thing. And then the next category is called fame. And fame is basically like, did you bring fame to the Raptors organization? Did you win individual awards? Like, did you win any dunk contests? Did you win the 3-point shootout? Are you an MVP? Are you an all-star? Are you a 6th man of the year? Did you win awards or did you break records? Do you hold any records overall, the whole NBA? Not just Raptors, obviously, and that kind of stuff. So the fame point is really important. And in that category, I give like somebody like Vince Carter an extra half point because his fame was overwhelming. It was like a really big effect on the whole entire league and on Canada in different ways. So he's a 1.5 in this category. Whereas somebody like, Pascal, he's all NBA, all-star, stuff like that. He just gets a normal point for right now because he wasn't like groundbreaking on a really huge level like Vince was. And then you have guys like, OG who hasn't won anything. He hasn't won any awards. He hasn't gotten any fame in any kind of way. So he doesn't get anything in that category, unfortunately, OG Anunoby. Then the next category is longevity. And this is an important one. Like, listen, guys that just come in here and play for 1 year, they can't get this point. People that aren't here for 5 years don't get this point. So basically, the way I broke it down is this way. If you've been here for 5 years, you get a whole point in this category. You have to have played for the Raptors for 5 years. If you played for like over 3 years, then I'll give you a half point. And if you played over like 8 years, you get 1.5 points. And Lowry and DeRozan both got the 1.5 in this category for longevity, playing for the Raptors. And then another category that's really important in this whole ranking system is loyalty. And this is one that doesn't get counted in for a lot of people's greatest Raptor of all time thing, is loyalty. How did they leave the team? How did they affect the team since? Have they been somebody who helped build us up since? Or have they been in our building since they left the team and supported the team also still? That kind of stuff. And in that category, I've given different marks all over the place. Some people have got 2 points in this category. DeMar DeRozan does specifically, because DeMar gets 2 points in this category because he's not only loyal to the team, but we crapped all over him. He's still loyal to the team and stuff like that. And Lowry gets an extra half point on this one just for the same kind of stuff. It's like the whole way he left the Raptors was set up so nicely and good for him and for us. And it wasn't destructive for anybody. So he gets 1.5 in this category too. Fred and Pascal obviously get 1 point. And then, people like Kawhi, they get 0. I just give him 0. I didn't give him a negative point like I did other people because he's not really done much damage to our franchise since he's left. But some people have done damage to our franchise since they left, and they get negative points in this category for loyalty. And this specifically hurts Vince Carter, Chris Bosh, and Jalen Rose. And then the next category I have, the 5th category, is called winner. And it's basically, did they win? Were they on a winning team when they played on the Raptors? Were they winning? Were they above 500? Were they making the playoffs? Or were they on the Raptors when we were a bad team? And that part of the history and stuff. So that's a factor. And then the final point, and this is, this is part of what is being great, is being a champion. So you only get this point if you were on the championship team, the final point in the 6th category, because that's part of greatness, is winning and getting the ring. And that's why that specifically, that makes me weight the championship players that were on our championship team higher than average other players. So you're going to see people that were on the championship team higher in my rankings than some of y'all would think they should be. But once again, my rankings list has nothing to do totally with who were the best players that played for the Raptors, who were the greatest of all time kind of stuff. Like Kawhi is not at the top of my list. They get discounted for different things. It's the greatest Raptor of all time, meaning, are they a great Raptor as a representative for the Raptors? Did they do the Raptors franchise right? Were they here long enough? Did they play really well? Did they win? Did they get a championship? So that's why that last point is only for people who are on the 2019 championship team. So the range of total scores by the end, I'm going to try and do this. It wasn't working very well because of the light and stuff like that. I don't know how to do this in the right way. Maybe I can try and figure something out real quick here with how I view it. No, that's not going to work. All right, we're just going to do it. We're going to try and do it in my janky way of, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to sit by the window, by the TV, and hope that we can see it, but I don't think we can. Yeah, it's bright. It's too bright. It's a TV. What are you doing, Lex? TVs don't work that way. All right, we'll go back. It would have been nice if once again, my technical difficulties did not work today. So it is what it is. So I'm just going to go through them one by one. So number 1 on my greatest Raptors of all time list is obviously Kyle Lowry, number 7. And it's really because he gets 7 points on a 6-point scale, because he gets extra half points for longevity and loyalty. And that is from, playing, 9 years with us and having complete loyalty to us even since he left. So, excuse me. So Lowry is the greatest Raptor of all time by my greatness rating system. He gets 1 point in all of them, and then the extra points in those 2. Now, DeMar is second on my list. But that may change. Honestly, I was actually speculating whether I should put Fred and Pascal above DeMar at this point. But no, not yet. I want to allow for Fred and Pascal to make even more achievements and be even greater in the future. And then I probably will bump them ahead of DeMar in some ways. But right now, as it is, DeMar's sitting at 6.5. But he doesn't get the champion point, but he gets an extra point for his loyalty that makes up for it. And then he gets an extra half point for longevity because he really was on the Raptors for a long time. And I have to give him those points. So he's a 6.5. Kyle's a 7. And then the next tier is number 3 and 4, which I'm giving them tied. I can't say which one I think is higher on this list between Fred and Pascal. That those guys are my 3 and 4. They get 1 point in all 6 categories. They don't miss a point in any of the categories. They get the value, the fame, the longevity, the loyalty, the winners, and they are champions. So they get the straight up 6 right across. And I don't want to pick between the two of them as who's 3 or 4. Like Fred and Pascal to me are very even. They came in at the same time. They've had similar kind of paths with their careers, but also they both have their own kind of accolades that are their own fingerprint, whether it's Fred being the highest points in the game, 54 points, beating DeMar's record, or him beating Kyle's 3-point record this year for most of the season, or whether it's Pascal being all NBA or his all-star stuff or any of the other accolades he has. I see them very even in some ways. And some people would be like, well, wait, Pascal should maybe be above, but some people may say Fred should be above. I don't know. It's to me, they're 3. I'm just going to say they're 3, and neither one of them is 4. Then 5th on the list, I have Kawhi Leonard at 5. So it's Lowry, DeRozan, Van Vliet, and Siakam, and then Leonard. And Leonard gets the extra half points for his value, his winning, and his championship, but he totally misses out on the longevity and the loyalty, of course. So he is a 5.5 rating on my greatest Raptors of all time rating scale. And that's not bad. I would say that's pretty fair to him. Like his impact was very important, but it was so brief. And, you can't give him any points for longevity or loyalty in the scale. You just can't. But I can boost him up for how important he was as far as the contributor and the guy who carried us in a lot of ways during the championship year. OG's actually 6th on this list. He's after Kawhi and ahead of Vince Carter. And some people will be like, whoa, OG's a greater Raptor than Vince Carter. And I'll be like, yeah, because first of all, he hasn't shat all over our team since he left. And, he gets the value point. I'm really starting to see him round into being a more solid starter at some, I know he had a bad performance near the end of this playoff, and that doesn't really give evidence to what I'm saying, but he's been a solid starter and a better contributor more and more as time has gone on. He's getting more and more offensive stuff to his game. And whether it's his bully ball down low and his precise 3-point shot and his driving ability. And he's getting in a longevity point because he's hit 5 years with the Raptors at this point. He's been with the team long enough to get the full point. And that's why he moved up actually this year. And he gets the loyalty point. He gets the winner point. And he also gets the champion point. So he's a solid 5. He just misses the fame point. And that's because he hasn't gotten any individual awards for himself. And if he does get that, then he probably will get that point eventually. But yeah, OG, we got to remember when I'm talking about greatness, I'm talking about, is he great on the team? Is he a great personality? Has he been good for the team? Has he done amazing things? And, that bubble 3-point shot at the last second was great. That was a great shot, and it shouldn't be discounted even though we lost the series. That was pretty damn impressive when he did the I don't shoot to miss shot in the bubble. And he has had other moments that have been big and key and great. And I really think that over time, he's going to get even greater for us. So right now, he's ranked a 5 on my scale, right underneath Kawhi and just above Vince Carter. Now, Vince Carter is number 7 on my list. He has a lot of bump ups on his thing. Obviously, he didn't get the champion point, but he did get the winner point. He gets a minus in loyalty. Like he loses points because of the way he's continued to still kind of put down the Raptors franchise on ESPN as an announcer. So he gets a minus half point on that one, but he gets a 1.5 for his value and a 1.5 for his fame. And that, that really is good because that kind of like that takes care of like what I was saying earlier, that he had the Air Canada effect. He gets a half point extra for that. And then also he was the guy who carried us as a superstar on our team during his tenure as a Raptor. So he also gets a half point for that. So he's a 4.5, number 7 on my ranking list. And then Norman's right behind him. And once again, I'll say I rank the champions higher because they're champions. And to be great, you have to win. And that is the epitome of what greatness is. So Norman Powell's number 8 on my greatest Raptors of all time list. And he gets a half point for value as far as like being a role player, sometimes a starter, sometimes taking over and doing important things, hitting big shots. Doesn't get any points for fame because he didn't win any awards, didn't really get any rah-rah for himself. He does get at 1 point for longevity because he was on the team for 7 years, something like that. So he does get the longevity point. He gets the loyalty point. He's a good Raptor in good standing with Raptor Nation. Didn't leave in a bad way. Is not slighted us or put us down since. He's definitely a winner and definitely a champion. So he's a 4.5 tied with Vince as far as point total. But because of Vince's prestige, I actually rank him higher at number 7 and Norman at number 8. So far we got Kyle at number 1, DeMar at number 2, Fred and Pascal tied for 3, Kawhi at 5, OG at 6, Vince at 7, and Norman at 8. Now my number 9 pick is our current color analyst for Sportsnet that sits next to Matt Devlin, Alvin Williams. That's right. I have Alvin right, not that far after Vince, because there's a couple of things about Alvin you guys need to realize. That Alvin was really our first clutch scorer in like clutch situations. He's the guy that we could rely on to hit a big shot at the end of the game to keep us in the game or even to win us the game. He's won games for us specifically just himself by hitting big shots, and they were playoff games, guys. They weren't even just like regular season games. He won playoff games for us himself. So I give a value point to Alvin, of course. He does not get a fame point because he didn't win any individual accolades while he was with us. He gets a longevity point because he did stick around. Alvin Williams was on the Raptors for longer than we all realize and remember. I think he was on the team for like 6 years, something like that. And then obviously he gets a loyalty point. In fact, I should probably maybe bump him up with a 1.5 here just for what his comments on how he's disowned Philadelphia and taken on Toronto as his team now. And he's definitely a winner, but he's not the champion. So he gets a 4-point rating on my greatest Raptor of all time score sheet. He's a 4. And he's tied with Jonas Valanciunas, who also has a 4, and he comes in at number 10. But I put Alvin above him, mostly because Alvin hit those clutch shots, and he continues to work with us and stuff like that. So Alvin's number 9, and Jonas is number 10. Jonas is the greatest Raptor of all time, number 10 on my list. He gets the value point for being a solid starter and being important. Does not get the fame point. He does get longevity because he was with the Raptors a long time. I think it was like 7 or 8 years. And he has loyalty point. He has the winner point, but unfortunately, he missed the champion point. So he's a straight up 4 with the value, longevity, loyalty, and winner. If you guys could see the spreadsheet, it would be easier, but I can't get a visual on it for you guys, unfortunately, today. I tried. It did not work. Okay, next we go into like the 11 through 15 tier of greatest Raptor of all time rankings. And the number 11 is going to surprise a lot of people is Serge Ibaka. And once again, the champions are all overweighted because they're champions. They're going to get an extra point just for having a ring. And Serge gets a half point for his value. He's not really a full starter. He was a starter at some times, but he was important in some ways. So I give him a half point. He doesn't get any of the fame point because he really didn't win any awards while he was here. He gets a longevity half point because he didn't make 5 years on the team. I think he played like 4 years for the Raptors. So he only gets a half point for longevity with the Raptors, which is unfortunate because he was close to getting a full point. Loyalty, I'm ambiguous about his loyalty with the team. So I gave him a half point here also. That I'm not totally sure if he's loyal to us, but I do think he is loyal to us. I'm not totally sure. He's on the Bucks. Let's just put it that way. So he gets a half point there. And then, of course, he gets the winning point and the champion's point. He's a 3.5 on my scale. And these are the rest of the 3.5s. There's 5 of them in a row, and I'll go through them each in a row. Number 11, Serge Ibaka. Number 12, Chris Bosh. Number 13, Terence Ross. Number 14, Antonio Davis. And number 15, Chris Boucher. Oh, Keem Olajuwon is on this ranking cards. You'll see him eventually. I'm gonna bring him up. Watch. Yeah. Okay. Monique's talking about Mo Bamba. Yeah, I would get Mo Bamba too. All right, let's see. So Serge at 11, Chris Bosh, his really weird rankings, like his value, I give him a superstar value at 1.5. So he gets a bump of a half point on that, just like Vince and Kawhi. He does get the fame point because he did get All-Star and he did have some fame as a Raptor. He does get the longevity point because he did play more than 5 years with the Raptors. But he does not get loyalty points. He gets a minus half point for loyalty, basically because he left with this decision. And then since I don't see Chris involved with Toronto at all. Like, I'm sure we're in good standing and everything's fine and stuff like that, but you never see him come back to Toronto. You never see him like associate with the Toronto Raptors like he does the Miami Heat at this point. So at minus half point for that. And then I give him a half point for winning. I don't give him a full point for winning because during the Chris Bosh era, there was many seasons where they sucked. And there were a couple seasons where he got the playoffs, but there were also, it was about half and half. Half his career in Toronto was really bad and they were a losing team, and half of his career in Toronto was winning. So he gets a half point there. He's a 3.5. He's tied with Serge Ibaka at 3.5, but I put Serge above him because he's a champion. Serge is in good standing for the most part. And also, Serge is just cool. Like, he was great in some ways. He was great for the city. He was a great personality. He has that great cooking show. He just, I do art. There's so much mythology to Serge Ibaka that makes him great on top of being a champion Raptor also. So that's why I value. That's what you're hearing what I value in this. It's not necessarily who was the best player, who like outside of the Raptors nation views as our best Raptors ever. It's not necessarily that with me. 13 is Terence Ross. And part of the reason why I picked Terence Ross is because of his dunk championships. Like, he won 2 dunk championships as a Raptor. I know the second one is a team championship, and a lot of people discount it, but I still feel like it's important. So he gets a half point for fame for his dunk championship stuff. He gets a full point for longevity because he did play for the Raptors over 5 years. And he also gets a loyalty point because I haven't heard Terence Ross say anything bad about the Raptors since he left. He's always he has an affection for our city, and I've seen him personally in Toronto since he's been on the Orlando Magic. In fact, years later, like 3 years after we traded him, I saw him on the street in Kensington Market. So he's still coming back to Toronto, and he still loves Toronto and stuff like that. So Terence is cool. He's got a 3.5, just like Chris and Serge. From those rankings, the loyalty, the longevity, and the winning. He was on winning teams also. We got to remember his tenure on the Raptors was pretty much the beginning of the DeRozan Lowry era, and they were winning. They were going to the playoffs, and he was a part of that. So Antonio Davis is next on my ranking at number 14. He gets a half point for value. He could have been better on this. I could have given him a whole point, but honestly, I think that he just, like Vince, he wasn't trying as hard as he could have in Toronto in some ways. And then he gets a full point for being an all-star for the Raptors for fame. He gets a full point for his tenure. I think he was on the team long enough. He was on the team for 5 years. He actually had 2 stints as a Raptor. He came and played the Vince time, and then he came back later and played another stint with us for like a year also. And that's why he added up to 5. He gets no point for loyalty, the whole metric system thing, and not wanting his kids to go to school here, and all this stuff he said about Canada was kind of stupid and ignorant. So he doesn't get that point, but he does get a point for being a winner because he was on Raptors teams that mostly won, but doesn't get the championship points. So he's 3.5. And then right after him, Chris Boucher. And I just bumped him up yesterday to this. He was way lower in this thing. And it is maybe recency bias. And it may be also I'm worried about him leaving. But Chris doesn't get the value point that everybody else is getting. Is at 0 because he's been a bench player. He hasn't been a major contributor. He's more a role player. And then he doesn't get any points for any fame, even though I probably should consider him for fame because of his Defensive Player of the Year, G League, MVP of the G League, that kind of stuff. But it doesn't totally translate. And then he gets a half point for longevity. He's just now getting a half point because he's at 4 or 5 years right now. So he'll get that full point if he re-signs this contract with us. If he re-signs with us this summer and he's playing next year, then I'm going to give him a bump up for another half point there. And then, of course, he's got the winner and the champion point, and he's also got the loyalty point. So he's a 3.5. That's why Chris is 3.5 there. All right, the next tier, 16 through 20, is going to be all the 3-point rating players. They have 3 points in this rating system. And Charles Oakley is number 16. I have him at a half point for value as far as a contributor, as a starter, and an important person that helped us. He did not get any fame point because he didn't really win any individual stuff with us. He gets a half point for longevity because he wasn't here that long. I think he was here for like 3 or 4 years. So if you get 3 years, you get a half point. And then he gets the point for loyalty because he has been involved with the Raptors since. He's talked glowingly about them. He honestly, in some ways, Charles Oakley treats us just like the Knicks. Like the Knicks and the Raptors are his teams that he is still a part of in nations. And I'm really appreciative of that. That he hasn't just like turned his back on Toronto and just said, I'm just a Knicks legend. He's a Raptors legend also, and he embraces that. And I love that about him. And then he is a winner. So he gets the winning point, but he's not a champion. So he's straight up 3. So he gets half points for value and longevity, but then he gets a straight up point for loyalty and being a winner. Jose Calderon is my next person on the list. He's number 17. He gets a half point for value as far as like being a starter and being important. He gets a half point for fame because he does actually have some NBA records as a Raptor and different things that he did that were really good. He gets a full point for longevity because he did play for us at least 5 years. And then he gets a full point for loyalty. He was somebody who has always been loyal to the Raptors. I haven't heard him ever say something bad about us. He has shown back up. He has been in part of Raptors Legends community since. So he gets 3 points. He's right after Oakley at number 17. Number 18 on my list is Marc Gasol. And once again, I do overvalue the champions, even though Mark wasn't here, but for 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. He gets a half. He doesn't get any points for longevity in any kind of way. He gets a 0 for that because he wasn't here long enough. He gets a half point for value, 0 points for fame because he didn't get any individual accolades. He gets a half point for loyalty. It's kind of like Serge. I'm treating him and Serge the same way about the whole thing and how they left and stuff like that. It could be that I should probably give him a full point, but I'm not totally sure about that. It's not like he's shown up a lot with the Raptors nation since, obviously he was on other teams, but now he's kind of semi-retired and he hasn't really tasseled himself onto our nation again. I'm sure he's just big time Grizzlies legend, and that's his thing, even though he won the championship with us and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll have to see over the years if Mark continues to keep his connection with the Raptors franchise and making appearances as a Raptor legend. I had not seen it yet, though. And he's obviously a winner and a champion, so he gets the full points for that, and that's how he got to 3. Number 19 on my list is Morris Peterson. Some of this is a lot of it's like longevity and just being loyal to the team here is he got a full point for both of those. And he also gets a half point for winning because he, once again, like Chris Bosh and a couple other players, he was on teams that won half the time and then half the time they didn't. And he was on the team with Vince, they were winning, so he could be getting the half point for that. But then later on, he was on really bad Raptor teams after that. So he gets a half point in that category. He also gets a half point for value because he was an important starter at times, but he was also 6-man at times and different things like that. He's kind of like I said, Norman before Norman was Morris Peterson. So he's a straight up 3-point rating on my G.R.O.A.T scale. Damon Stoudemire is number 20, and it's not just because his number was number 20. It's also that's where I put him. He gets a full point for value because he was our go-to guy and our number 1 guy in our first year ever as a franchise. He was obviously very important at that time. He also gets a 1.5 points for his fame because he was Rookie of the Year, and he still kind of has a really strong connection to our franchise's identity as being Mighty Mouse, as being like the very beginning. People will say, oh, they think about the Raptors, they think Vince Carter, Chris Bosh, Damon Stoudemire, that kind of thing. And then he doesn't get any points after that. He wasn't here long enough to get a longevity point. He does not get a loyalty point. He does not get a winning point because his teams never were good teams. And he doesn't obviously get the champions point, but he does get 3 points from the first part of it. Number 21 on my list is Jerome Williams, the Junkyard Dog. And once again, I'm heavily weighting guys that are super loyal and have done really nice things for our community and our culture since. and because he doesn't get any points for value, for fame himself, for longevity, because he wasn't even on the team that long, but he's had such a lasting impact. It's like him and Bismack. They didn't play a whole lot of time on the team, but everybody loves them. And it's interesting. So JYD gets a 1.5 for loyalty. And that's really, like I said, because he's come to our games like in the last month. He was at a Raptor game and he's all over the Raptors, like here in Toronto all the time. And he really does champion his Raptors legend status really heavy. So Jerome gets an extra half point for loyalty. And then he's a winner also. He was on winning Raptor teams with Vince and Charles and all them. So he gets that full winning point. So he's a 2.5 on the rating on the greatest Raptor of all time scale. Number 21 on my list, Jerome Williams. Number 22 is Amir Johnson. And I'm picking Amir. A lot of it is because of his loyalty and length of time on the team. Also, people forget how long Amir Johnson was a Raptor. He was on this team for a long time. And he's kind of a quiet, understated, great Raptor in some ways. He's underrated. People don't talk about him enough in some ways for what he did for our franchise. Now, I don't give him a point for value. I don't give him a point for fame because he didn't get any fame, but he does get the longevity. He gets the loyalty points. I mean, he used to do the thing where he takes all the kids to medieval times and all that kind of fun stuff. He's a great community kind of guy. And then also I give him a half point for the winning. Like I said, half the time he was on good teams and they won. And then but at the beginning when he first came in, he was on really shitty Raptor teams. So he's a 2.5. Number 23 on my list is Del Curry. And part of it is just like that he is kind of a myth to him. He's the father of Steph. There's different things like that. He doesn't get a value point. He doesn't get a fame point. He does get a half point for longevity because he was here for 3 or 4 years. And then he gets a point for loyalty, and he does get a point for winning because he's been loyal also. Like much like Muggsy and JYD, he has came back and shown up and been a part of our franchise in different ways. Even though his sons are playing on other teams, he's still shown a connection to the Raptors franchise and shown up and done waving or been an alumni night and stuff like that. And I haven't heard Dell ever speak down about Toronto in any kind of way. So, he's definitely on this list at 2.5 rating, number 23 overall. Number 24 is Patrick Patterson. I picked Patrick because he does have a long time with the Raptors to an extent. He's got a half point on longevity because I think he was here for 4 years, something like that. He gets a full point for loyalty because he's continued to be loyal. I mean, Patrick Patterson married a Toronto girl and got married 3 years after he left the team here in Toronto. So it's like he still has a strong connection to our city and even our franchise, even though we don't see him. It's partly because he's still playing in the NBA and been connected to other teams. But I've never heard Patrick speak down upon us. And he's a winner. So I give him the winning point because he was in during the Kyle and DeMar early winning years, 2.5 rating for him. And then number 25 on my list is Andrea Bargnani. And some people will be like, greatness about Andrea Bargnani? Well, yeah, because listen, you got to be fair. Sure, he was the number 1 pick in the draft and he didn't live up to that standard. But overall, he was a very solid player for us for a long, long time. Let's say I don't give him a value point because honestly, in some ways, he was kind of garbage in some ways, but I will give him half a point for fame. And it maybe is kind of infamy, or maybe people will say, oh, you shouldn't do that because he made us look bad. But I'm like, no, because in some ways, he's really kind of cool because Andrea Bargnani was the first ever number 1 draft pick drafted by the Raptors. And that in itself is historic and great in itself that the Raptors had the number 1 pick in an NBA draft. And this is the guy we picked. Now, I know there's all this other stuff, but also I give him a point for longevity because he was on the team over 5 years. I give him a point for loyalty because I haven't heard him talk shit about the Raptors in any kind of way. So I think he deserves it. He does not get a point for being a winner because he didn't win when he was on the team for the most part. And he does not get a pick for being a champion, obviously. So he's a 2.5 rating on my scale. A point for longevity and loyalty, and then a half point for fame. Muggsy is next on my list at number 26. He's in the next tier of 2-point ratings. Muggsy gets a point for loyalty and for winning. He doesn't get a point for anything else because obviously he didn't contribute to the Raptors on a high level. He was a bench backup point guard. But you know what? Listen, he's shown super loyalty. Just like JYD, he showed up, comes back to our games all the time, and he was here within the last month in Toronto at a Raptor game. So he's a loyal one and he's a winner. So he gets some 2 points just from that. And same thing goes for Bismack Biyombo. Bismack's next on my list at number 27. He is a winner and he has been loyal too, but he doesn't get any points in other places. And really, I'm really basing it obviously that one season as a Raptor was a dream season in some ways for him. Really fell in love with him on our team. And there's an intangible part of why Bismack is where he is that has to do with just the pure joy and affection that a fan base can have for a guy who only played one season on a team is actually amazing. So Bismack, in a way, is a real great Raptor legend, even though we only played one season here. In fact, I look at him as like more glowingly than Kawhi Leonard in some ways, just as far as his personality and the love that was shared between him and Raptor Nation. Because this is the thing, he was only here for 1 year, and he still comes back and acts like, a Jerome Williams, a Tyrone Bogues, same kind of way. Number 28 on my list is Tracy Mcgrady. And partly this is just more on his Hall of Fame sense after us, but also on the promise of what he did and the way he came in and the athleticism and the whole part with the early him and Vince Carter like synergy that was happening. He gets a point in fame, like straight up. I'm just giving him a point for fame because he did becomes like a phenom. He looked really cool when he came in. It was the Isaiah Thomas pick and a really interesting, like dynamic young player that wasn't fully realized in any kind of way in Toronto, but the talent was already there in some ways and stuff like that. I don't give him any points for longevity. I don't give him a point for loyalty. I do give him a point for being a winner, though, because he was on our team when we were winning. And so that's how he gets his 2 points. He gets it from fame and winning, but that's it. Danny Green is next on my list at number 29. He's getting a point for being a winner and also a champion, but he doesn't get anything else. He wasn't here long enough. He hasn't shown loyalty like to a degree. He's just a mercenary that'll jump from team to team. And that's okay. I don't hate him, but also I don't consider him like in loyalty standing. I mean, he just played in the series against us and helped to put us out in some ways and stuff like that. So, and then the next person on my list is Corey Joseph. I have Corey Joseph at number 30. And that's partly because he's a Canadian. I like that Canadian connection. He's also was on the team. He wasn't on the team for very long in some ways, but he was a winner. He was on winning teams with the early DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry years. So I put Joseph at 30. The next tier is going to be the 1.5 point rated team players. And I've got number 31, Danielle Marshall. And Danielle was like kind of like our go-to guy. He was our scorer, our main guy in the seasons that he played for us. He was really kind of carrying the water. So I gave him a 1 point for the value, like that he had to be our franchise kind of face for a couple of seasons and be our lead scorer kind of guy with Jalen Rose in those years. And then I give him a 0.5 point for fame because he's kind of famous for his 3-point record, where how many 3-pointers did he shot in one single game? I think he had 12 3-pointers in a game for the Raptors. And that's the record still. Like that's the most 3-pointers any Raptors ever made in a game. Somebody came close to almost beating it recently, but 12 3-pointers, that's absolutely insane. Just getting a 0.5 point just for that in itself. So he's 1.5 points for being the go-to guy and also for having that record. Doug Christie's next on my list at number 32. He gets a 0.5 point for his longevity on the team. He was here for, I think, 4 years. And then he had he gets a loyalty point. So that's basically it. Doug's getting that for that. But listen, on down low, he was kind of like Gary Trent Jr. before Gary Trent Jr. He's this crazy, great stealer, slasher, 3-point shooter, scorer kind of guy for us in his years on the Raptors. He's pretty good at times. Number 33 on my greatest Raptors of all time list is Lou Williams. Sweet Lou. I picked Lou. He doesn't get a value point, but he gets a 0.5 point for fame because he did win a 6th Man of the Year award as a Raptor. And that's important. He wasn't here long enough to get any longevity. He doesn't get a loyalty point because he really doesn't show any loyalty to the Raptors. And then he gets 1 point for winning. for being a winner, because he was on winning Raptor teams with Dwayne Casey as our coach and stuff like that. Let's see. Anthony Parker is next, number 34. Anthony Parker is another one of these unsung, like 3-point shooters like Morris and Norman Powell that we kind of forget about. That Anthony Parker was a really solid starter for us, and he did a lot of different things that was important for us. He doesn't get a value point. He doesn't get fame point because he's not famous, didn't do anything, but he does get a half point for longevity. He was here for 4 years, I believe. He gets a point for loyalty. I haven't heard him diss the Raptors. I don't know where he is. We don't hear anything about him. We see his sister all the time, but we don't see Anthony. And then he wasn't on winning teams, so he doesn't get a winning point or obviously a champions point because he wasn't on our championship team, but he still gets a 1.5. And then 35 is Rudy Gay. I actually picked Rudy Gay at 35. He gets a half point for value because he was kind of really solid contributor in the years that he was on the Raptors. He doesn't get a point for fame. He doesn't get a point for longevity because he wasn't here long enough. He gets a point for loyalty because he stayed loyal to the Raptors in some ways just by the friendships and different things. It's not that he's totally loyal to our franchise. It's just that he's loyal to DeMar and Kyle and things like that. So I'll give him at 1.5 for that. The next tier I'm going into is 36 through 40. Number 36 is Jason Capono, and that is almost purely all based on him winning a 3-point contest for us. That was a great individual accomplishment. So he gets a straight up point as a fame point for being a 3-point champion for the Raptors. He's our only 3-point champion in the history of the Raptors, and we got to celebrate that. So Jason Capono is on the list at 36 for that. Number 37 is Mike James. The horror from Amityville was another guy who carried our team in a shitty year and was our like go-to guy, scoring a lot of points. So he gets that value point for being like the go-to guy and carrying us. But that's it. He doesn't get anything else. They didn't win. He wasn't here long enough. He hasn't shown I don't think he's loyal to our team. I haven't heard anything about him having anything to do with the Raptors since. So yeah, he just gets the straight up value point for being our go-to guy as a scorer in the seasons that he played for us. James Johnson is number 38 on my list. And James is an interesting one. He doesn't get the value point. He doesn't get the fame point, but he gets a half point for longevity. And that's partly because he was on the team 3 different times. Like James Johnson has come and gone between the Raptors and the NBA like 2 or 3 times. And, I have to count for that. And then he's getting a half point also for being a winner. He was on half the teams he was on were winners. Like he had a stint with us with DeMar and Kyle where they were winning a lot. So he gets a full point from a half point of longevity and a half point of being on winning Raptor teams. Charlie Villanueva is number 39 on my list. He gets a straight up point for just loyalty. I don't know why I picked it this way, but I'm just saying, yeah, he's been a loyal Raptor. You just get a loyalty point. And then number 40 is TJ Ford. I picked TJ Ford at number 40. He's another guy who gets just a loyalty point. Nothing too exciting or anything, but these guys were both guys that were kind of heralded in some ways while they were on the Raptors. They were important starter contributors. And, Charlie was a draft pick by us, and he did pretty good in his first couple years, but he didn't stay here that long. He was on the Raptors for 2 seasons, but he was getting kind of heralded and a little bit of attention, stuff like that. They didn't win when he was here or anything, but, this is just how I see it. So moving on to the next, I'm only doing 50, guys. So if you're wondering how long I'm going to go, I'm at 40. Number 41, I picked Jermaine O'Neal. And that's really because he had a lot of promise. He was supposed to be this Twin Towers kind of attack with, I forget who it was even. I think it was Bosch. We were supposed to have Jermaine O'Neal and Chris Bosh as this great Twin Towers attack. It worked a little bit. I'm giving a half point for value that he came in and he was a solid starter. But once again, he wasn't here that long. And, I want to give Jermaine some light because I really feel like his career was ruined after the Palace and the Malice, and people don't talk about him enough because of the black eye of that situation. And when you see the documentary about what happened at the Malice and the Palace, and you understand that Jermaine O'Neal was kind of a victim of circumstance and a victim of the whole situation, and it kind of fucked up his NBA career. I feel like he's the kind of person that we need to celebrate in different ways a little bit more, just because he's getting discounted for his association with the Malice and the Palace. So Jermaine O'Neal's number 41. Number 42, Walt Williams. I got an early Raptor here other than Damon Stoudemire. Walt Williams comes in here because he was an important scorer for us. in his little bit of time. He was the guy who got traded to Portland for Alvin Williams to get him here along with Damon Stoudemire. Walt was he gets a half point for value, and that's it. I'm not giving him any other points in any kind of place because he did not win when he was here. He wasn't here long enough. I don't think he's had loyalty to our team because I haven't seen him be involved with us in any kind of way, hardly. Sean Marion is the next player on my list like this. He's very similar to Jermaine O'Neal in some ways, that like he was a very valuable guy. So I give him a half point for value, but he wasn't here that long. He didn't show any loyalty. It was kind of just like a stop in his career, Sean Marion. But he was a Raptor, and he did have some solid time in a Raptors jersey. So I do have to recognize that. Number 44 on my list is Hedo Turkoglu. Yeah, I put Hedo on here, and it's really more from, I don't know. I just gave him a half point for loyalty. I don't know. Maybe it's the pizza commercials. Maybe it's like Ball in an interview, whatever. Ball. He just comes on the interview and says Ball. I don't know. Hedo, I just thought it would be fun to have him on here. So I put him at 44. Number 45 is Patrick Mccaw. Patrick Mccaw gets a half point for a championship point. He didn't play at all. He didn't do anything. And this is where to kind of show the bottom level of where a championship caliber player can be on my list. At 45, Patrick Mccaw, he gets a half point for champions. He didn't play, so I'm not giving him a winner point. And he wasn't here long enough or anything. He didn't play or anything. But even a guy who can just ride on the bench and get a championship, he gets a half point. So he's at number 45 on here. Patrick Mccaw. I know, it's crazy. And people will be like, well, you've got these guys after him. Well, these guys didn't really do anything either. Number 46 on this list is Marcus Camby. And I may have to revise this. I may need to bump him up just a little bit to the next tier because honestly, he should maybe get a half point because he wasn't here very long. First of all, I think he played for the Raptors for a season or two. And his stats weren't like they were in Denver, like where he was absolutely badass and stuff. He was a rookie. He was just starting out in his career in the NBA. He was solid, but he wasn't all that and stuff like that. Maybe I should have him up there near Charlie Villanueva, though, because they're kind of similar in a way. Hakeem Olajuwon, number 47. You want to see it, Cards fan? He's number 47 on my list. I have him with no points. He's just a 0 because there's nothing. He wasn't here long enough. He didn't do anything crazy for us. He wasn't on a winning team. He didn't get any accolades. It was just like a pit stop to get a little bit of money and stuff like that. But also, it is kind of great that we had one of the greatest players of all time in the history of the NBA play on our team, even if it was a shell of himself and nothing like that. We can say that Hakeem Olajuwon was a Raptor. So he's number 47 on the list. Cards fan, Phoenix fan. 48, Ed Davis. I'm just putting Ed Davis in here. It's kind of like it could be anybody. It could be Popeye Jones. It could be Carlos Rogers. It could be Victor Alexander. It could be, all these other guys that I didn't mention in this list. Oliver Miller. Zon Tabak. It could be any of these guys, but I just put Ed Davis in here for now. And it's like I can't list all the Raptors. I'm basically listing the ones that really kind of flirted with greatness or are kind of great in any kind of way with our team. So even just being on this list is kind of something in itself. So, and then the next person I have at number 49 is PJ Tucker. And part of the reason why I put PJ Tucker at this point is he gets a negative half point for loyalty. He has a weird relationship with the Raptors franchise. He kind of hates us in a lot of ways because we cut him early on in his career and it pissed him off. And then he came back and played for us again. And I don't think it worked out again. So he's kind of acrimonious with us. So I give him a minus half point, but I do give him a half point for being a winner. I give him a half point for being a winner and being on winning Raptor teams at least. So it's a balance. And then finally, the last name on my list is Jalen Rose. And I put him in, he's always going to be at the bottom of my list for greatest Raptor of all time. He gets a full point for value because he was the go-to guy and the guy who was really important in the seasons they played for us. He was our scorer. He was important, but I got to subtract 2 points from his score also. He gets a -1 in fame, because he brought bad fame on our team by letting Kobe Bryant score 81 points on us in that one game. He was carding him. He is very linked to that memory. And that brought shame on the Raptors franchise. And sure, we can blame Sam Mitchell. We can blame a lot of different people in this situation. But I'm going to blame Jalen Rose. Give him -1. And then I'm giving him -1 for loyalty also. And that's really basically because he's dissed our franchise every single chance he gets, like in different places in different ways. Like him voting for Evan Mobley as rookie of the years, whatever, things on ESPN that he says as far as what he predicts for us and stuff like that. That's actively hurting the perception of the Raptors in U.S. mainstream media. So he gets a -point for that. So he's a -1 on my Raptors greatest of all time ranking list. Now, I know that was a lot of talking and just like unloading it all. I just went through the whole 50, and I apologize about the technical difficulties this morning. It's just been really kind of I really wanted to be able to show you guys this list on the screen, but I can't. I'm technologically not the best person. I probably need a technical advisor to be able to help me navigate this stuff. All right, I'm going to read y'all's comments just real quick before I go out here. And I appreciate y'all putting up with me this morning and all the difficulties and stuff like that. It's just really annoying in different ways. Tom Duke, good morning to you, sir. Good to see you. Monique, let's go. Monique's also, I hope all is well. Yeah, things are okay. It's just, like I said, technical difficulties. Tom Duke saying DeRozan's going to take this win. Well, he got second. We got to believe that, of course, Kyle Lowry is the greatest Raptor of all time. Monique saying would definitely put Mo Pete in loyalty at 6 or something. At 6, yeah. Well, he gets a full point, but the rating system is basically you get a point or you don't. And Mo Pete is actually really in a good spot. Like as far as things, he's actually in number 19 out of overall. That's pretty damn good being at 19. So, and we saw where Akeem Olajuwon is, a Phoenix fan, and Monique saying, Lex, reading off the last live stream, I would definitely bring in Mo Bamba. Yeah, we're talking about impossible center situation, people that we could possibly get this summer to fill the center problems for the Raptors, that possible need. And Mo Bamba is a great name. As I said, my dream candidate person that I would love to get is Jakob Poeltl. That's somebody that could have been on this list in some ways also, but he really wasn't here long enough. It was really people that were here long enough that could possibly get these points and stuff like that. I'm going to post a link to this spreadsheet, make it public so you guys can actually go and look at it yourselves. If you want to and understand kind of what I was explaining during this. Maybe it's fun to watch along while you watch me explain it and being able to see it. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Sorry for the difficulties this morning, the confusion. It sucks. I'm really trying to get this figured out, but obviously I had not. It's just how it is. But tomorrow I'll be back for a Raptor Freak memory, Monday memory, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be doing it live the normal way, so there won't be any delay or any weirdness like there was today. All right, thanks again for bearing with me, and let's go Raptors. I'll see y'all tomorrow. All the best, and I'll put the link up very soon so you guys can go look at it yourselves.